Welcome to the Voice of College Football. If you're stopping by for the first time, this is where we talk college football with you each and every day. So please lock in, check out the videos. All right. The NCAA is investigating the number 2 Michigan Wolverines football program amid allegations of sign stealing, the school announced Thursday. So first key point there, sign stealing. So we can have quite the discussion concerning just sign stealing and whether that's actually cheating in and of itself, if it's just strictly stealing signs. Okay. I want to personally assure you that Michigan Athletics will offer its complete cooperation to the NCAA. Ward Manuel, the athletic director, said in a statement, all of us are committed to the highest standards of ethics and integrity and all those things. Okay. The University of Michigan said the Big Ten and Michigan both notified by the NCAA of the investigation Wednesday, and the conference said it had notified the Wolverines' future opponents. I think we've all been notified, but the future opponents have been notified. The Big Ten considers the integrity of competition to be of the utmost importance, et cetera, et cetera. A source told ESPN's Adam Rittenberg that the NCAA's investigation also includes allegations of similar violations by Michigan prior to the 22 season. So we'll find out if these allegations are concerning this season as well. Not that it really matters. Upcoming opponents have not expressed opposition to playing Michigan after being notified by the NCAA, sources told ESPN. Wouldn't that be something? No, we refuse to play them. They're cheaters. We're not playing. The NCAA does not have rules specifically against stealing signs, but does prohibit in-person advanced scouting of opponents. Yes, okay. Also has bylaws prohibiting unsportsmanlike activities. Okay, please define that. According to a report by Yahoo Sports, Michigan allegedly had people attending games of future opponents as well as possible college football playoff opponents. Did they actually scout TCU? Is that what we're finding out here? Well, that knocks them down a peg or two right there. If they actually were scouting TCU, advanced, actually cheating to scout TCU. Opponents to gather. I'm kidding, kind of. Opponents to gather information on signs used to call plays on offense and defense. Okay, that's a different matter. That is a different matter. A source confirmed to ESPN that in-person scouting is the focus of the NCAA investigation. If true, the number 2 Wolverines would have violated NCAA bylaw 10.6.1, which states off-campus in-person scouting of future opponents is prohibited. Okay. Man, you would think that they would be awfully stupid to do that if, in fact, they did that, and we don't know. This is being investigated. Although I would think it would be a quick investigation, actually, if they were investigating as to whether there was in-person on-campus scouting at these games. If they have a lead on that, and it can't be that difficult to confirm. U.S. Integrity, a Las Vegas firm that monitors the betting markets, sent out an alert to its sportsbook clients regarding the Michigan controversy Thursday. Okay, multiple Big Ten coaches this offseason were advocates of exploring helmet communication as a way to better generally protect signs. Okay, ESPN's Pete Thamel reporting here. Potential NCAA rule changes, however, were tabled until after the season. The NHL, and we don't want to get into that, what they do with their helmets and communication for signals. Michigan State on Saturday. Michigan said in a statement the investigation would not impact the game. And, of course, Jim Harbaugh just served a 3-game suspension the university imposed, stemming from alleged recruiting violations during the COVID-19 dead period and not cooperating with NCAA investigators. Will they be cooperating this time? Well, I guess it doesn't involve necessarily directly. The communications may not involve Jim Harbaugh right now. Michigan is still facing 4 level 2 violations, which are considered less serious from those alleged violations. Their ruling from the NCAA is not expected. That's right, until 2024. So the self-imposed was to get out in front of that. Okay. Here are my thoughts, and we'll take your calls. My thoughts would be number one, it goes back to baseball. Baseball would be, the number one sport anyone thinks of when it comes to signs. There being signs, and it's against etiquette in baseball to steal signs from the other team. It's always been my thought, however, that the use of the signs is to keep your plans, your formations, your strategy from the opponent. Therefore, if they can be stolen, then your signs are not effective. So your signs are not effective if they can be stolen. So that is kind of the whole point to having signs. Otherwise, why don't we all just cover our ears and they can yell to the batter what they want him to do, and the base runners. Okay, same thing in football. I've always thought, hey, if the opposition can steal the signs, then in game, stealing the signs should be, to me, legal. As long as you are properly separating teams and coaches and there is no technology involved, then it should be certainly fine to do that. Okay, this is a different deal. We're talking about there is a restriction in the bylaw to appearing at a game of an opponent, a future opponent, and having in-person scouting, because then you can videotape, you can use binoculars, you can study, you can go over and over and over and over to detect patterns and then determine what the signs may be. And it is a rule. Even if it's a bad rule, and I don't believe it is, I think it's a good rule. Even if it's a bad rule and you violate it, then you're in violation. Okay. So I'm just going to make a prediction here that I'm guessing when I take Michigan calls that the Michigan calls are going to going to determine that this is not important or that severe. I'm guessing that when I take the non-Michigan calls, especially from a particular fan base, they may think completely opposite. That's just my guess, my intuition. I've got an acute instinct from doing this that's just brilliant on my part to come to that conclusion. All right, here we go with the voice of college football. We got our buddy John on the line. You can catch John each and every Tuesday. I got
Tuesday night.
Thinking Tuesday, folks. It's Tuesday at 8:00 Eastern time on the Michigan channel. Please join John, and he routinely brings in some tremendous guests to talk Michigan football and match up the opponents. John, how you doing today?
Well, it's definitely been a bit of a bizarre day, and just trying to follow this news and really understand the exact thing that happened, which we still don't exactly know a lot of details yet, other than that apparently it was NCAA bylaw 11.6.1 that was in question about off-campus in-person scouting of future opponents in the same season. But I think it comes down to, did they use video? Did they use electronic equipment? Because I think that's that's kind of the piece that they're looking at, because that is against the football rule, like the rules of doing this. So yeah, that's really what we need to figure out. Was there audio or video attempts to record? Were they sending people to games? I mean, what was the thing that they're looking at? That's what I think we're still a little shaky on.
So, John, if I'm reading this correctly, just attending the game is a violation. So if you can connect somebody with Michigan to attending a game of a future opponent, then that would be a violation. And then what you're talking about, I guess, would be a more severe violation.
Right. Yeah, that would be under the 2023 football rule book under prohibited field equipment. So my guess is that's going to determine the level, whether this is a level 2 violation or a level 1. Like, what was the extent of this? And like you said in the beginning, sign stealing by definite, like just the act of like copying people's signs isn't prohibited, but sending people to games in advance, I think it was 1994 that was prohibited by the NCAA. So
when we come across situations like this, and again, it's just being investigated.
Yeah.
My thought always goes to maybe I just don't have a cheating mindset. And before everybody jumps on Michigan, let's understand everyone has it in their history across college football, across college athletics. Every university, every athletic program, football program has some level of skeletons in the closet. So I guess, especially in this day and age, I don't understand the risk of being taken.
Yeah. Yeah. If this, I mean, yeah, again, I'd like to see the exact things that they did and what, what the NCAA is going to levy. So apparently the Big Ten notified Michigan State that this investigation is happening. Um, so I don't exactly know what that looks like in terms of the next couple of games, but do any of the I'm trying to read, like, as I've heard, but I haven't seen in any of the articles like when any punishment might get levied. And if it's going to happen in the off season, then they'd probably take that along with the whatever other punishment they're going to give for the initial violations, aka Burgergate, and kind of lump it all together. I don't know. That seems like the most logical thing, but
So, John, regardless of who this is, and I don't think I need to go to the point to ask you to remove your maize and blue glasses. You're extremely level headed and measured about these things. How severe do you, let's say they did attend games and used audio/video equipment, like where do you place this in its severity of cheating?
and you said they did or didn't use.
Let's say they did, because otherwise, what are they doing? They're attending a game, and and coaches tend to, and a lot of people tend to have extremely good memories to just show up and say,
Right.
this is what I perceived, this is what I picked up just watching. But you would think that they would, number one, wouldn't you have to have binoculars? Well, I guess not. I guess you wouldn't have to, but with all those big signs that they hold up nowadays with, the animals and the celebrities and everything
Right.
else
Just
on the
get
signs.
Junior
I guess
Colson in there with a fake mustache and yeah.
so.
Yeah, if there was audio and video equipment used, that's another level. I mean, that's like Patriots level, right? And there were issues with that, right? And obviously that's the NFL, and NCAA is different. I get that. But yeah, if there was audio and video used to try to intercept signals that was fed back, I think that would be a higher level of severity than you have some people go to the games and they report back, hey, they're doing X, Y, and Z.
Now, if there's not equipment involved, I don't even know how there can be an allegation of sign stealing rather than just, this is a violation. You are not to attend and advance scout in
Yeah.
person. But how you draw the conclusion that there's sign stealing versus just scouting plays, players, personnel, schemes, formations, and wanting to see that in person, or especially personnel. Any football coach would tell you that they get a better feel for the game and the speed and the personnel from being there in person. But I don't know how they would, without the equipment involved, be able to distinguish. Okay, or if there's just an assumption made that if you're advanced scouting, then you're sign stealing.
Yeah, so the only like third party report that was mentioned was Shiano had said at halftime in the game, the Rutgers game, that something didn't seem right. But he later kind of clarified that, to say that Michigan, just the nuances of the game. I was frustrated with a few things, but look, they're a very good football team. So that's the only thing we've heard, like from an external source, from a coach, and that's pretty vague. Okay. But that's what all the articles are pointing to as like the third party um, source. So
he said that on television at halftime.
so he at in the on-field interview at halftime,
Mm-hmm.
there are some things going on that aren't right.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think we need to see a lot more details. Yeah, and I mean, I'm never somebody that says the timing of something is fishy. I really try not to do that. Jim Harbaugh's in the middle of a potentially 13 or somewhere around $13 million a year contract negotiation. And so the fact that this came out right now when apparently things were about to be wrapped up in the next few days. I mean, again, I'm going off track a little, but I don't know. It just seems something just doesn't smell right about this.
Well, sure, it's worth a mention because for as much as we should not jump to conclusions and assign guilt here, we should also not assign guilt elsewhere. But we do know in the recruiting game and in the competition of the sport that it has a long history of schools turning in other schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I know you have a lot of calls, so I'll leave you to it, but I just wanted to kind of give my 2 cents of what I've seen so far, which is we have a lot that we don't know. And so keep following, and I'm sure we'll have more on Michigan post-game live. We'll probably talk about it a little bit, and then obviously Tuesday night for Michigan Wolverines live. So everybody hit the like button.
Thank you, John. Catch John after the Michigan game. The Wolverines are playing in Michigan State. That is a night game, 7:30 game. So right after the game on the Michigan channel with John.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Bye.
It's our guy John D'Adamo. And again, Michigan Lives every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time as well. If you're watching on the Michigan channel, you are right here. Otherwise, we've got a Michigan channel, and John hosts a great show covering the Wolverines every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, I'm going to be very clear about how I see this. Now, past determining right and wrong, past determining violation, I should say, past determining rules violations, rules being broken, it is a complete judgment call. And I never pretended to have the perfect justice system to say, this requires this. If you violated this, now there is precedent, and you, of course, rely on precedent. If you believe the precedent is just, then that's why we look to precedent to set the penalties. But that doesn't mean that the precedent is just. You know, I could think about this and I would let you know what I think is just if, in fact, these allegations are true and proven. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We've got Michigan man on the line. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm gonna be very. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, so I'll start with. I'm gonna take the Michigan hat off. I'm gonna put on the unbiased fan hat if that's possible. Okay. Firstly, this isn't a sign stealing issue. This is a scouting issue. The sign, if they sent people to go scout teams ahead, right? And first of all, that would be stupid. That would be dumb, especially when you're in the middle of already in the middle of an investigation. Would make it even more dumb. I mean, that to me that is cheating, especially if you're filming and doing things like that. I can't see them doing that because I think that would be one of the dumbest things you could do because they're already in an investigation. If you're already in an NCAA investigation and you're doing things that are not allowed like that, that's like level 10 out of 10 dumb. What do you think?
I agree with you. And I will be surprised that it's confirmed to this degree that they did that. I just think, yeah, I just think it's so. Anytime I see violations of any sort, not just with football, but just with anything that somebody tries to pull off, that's inappropriate, um, cheating of some way, whatever it is. I think of the moral side of it, like you shouldn't be cheating just because you need to play by the rules and do the right thing. But then I also think of the dumb factor. Did you really think you could pull this off? And what was the risk reward? And really was that really good judgment determining that? And I just, yeah, it's hard for me to believe that they would have done that. And like you, I don't know if you heard my comment to John was, I think, similar to what you're leading to. I said, if they just had coaches or scouts in the stadium and there was no equipment involved, then how can they, even with equipment involved, how can they determine, unless obviously they seize the evidence from the equipment and then see that they're focused in on signs on the sideline, how can they make a differentiation between just being there to scout the personnel and the formations and all of that?
Yeah, and like, look, the only advantage to scouting in person, because you could learn pretty much most of this stuff all 22.
Yeah.
The only advantage to scouting in person, I guess, is game speed.
Yeah.
Really?
That's another comment I made. Yep. I'm right there with you. Yeah.
So that would make it equally as dumb to me because you're not learning really anything extra for the most part. And two, um, look, it's innocent until proven guilty. Michigan fans and Ohio State fans need to not just all fans, but they need to stay in a mindset of let's not jump to either side. Let's not jump to a conclusion. Because also, if you read the report, they're investigating this because 2 coaches have complained about it. That's the root of this investigation. Is 2 coaches have complained about Michigan's stealing signs or scouting or whatever. It's coming from 2 other Big Ten coaches. So they obviously feel like it needs to be investigated if they're getting 2 Big Ten coaches to submit allegations. Huh?
Do you remember where you saw that?
I think it's in the Athletic report. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them Shiano. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them was Day.
Well, I'm putting together what John said about what Shiano said at halftime of the Michigan game, you would think it it sounds like it was Shiano. I don't want to make that assumption, but if he made a comment on television, it's one thing to think, okay, there might not be something right here. How did they know this or how did they know that? But to be able to go on national television and make a comment like that.
Yeah, the exact quote. I mean, I remember exactly what he said. He said, there's something not right going on. We need to slow down. There's something not right. We'll discuss how to handle it. That was the exact quote.
Okay.
It's also weird because I see people on Twitter saying this is how they are so successful in the second half. Well, to me, that doesn't make sense because if they're scouting ahead of time, wouldn't you see that in the first half?
Yes. That's my first thought too. Yeah.
That to me doesn't make any sense. And what is Shiano like? Here's I'm doing a lot of logical things here
and
when I'm
sorry
thinking.
to cut you off here, but just to extend on the point that you just made, that was my thought as well. That you would be more successful in the first half if you're stealing signs, and then the other team goes into, and then anybody that's got half a brain that has dealt in sports for a long time knows, okay, they may know our signs or they're way ahead of us here. Let's switch up the signs at halftime. We're going to reverse this, and that, and do A equals B now, and so forth and so on. And we switch up the signs, and then it all changes.
Yeah, it's like that this doesn't make sense to me. And also, like, even if Shiano made those comments at halftime, what is he? I don't get what he can conclude on the sideline from that. Like, what information is he getting at Michigan Stadium on the sideline to even, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just very perplexing. The whole situation is perplexing to me.
I don't know if maybe Rutgers tried a number of things that weren't on. Well, they would have to be on game tape because if they were self-scouted before, yeah, I don't know exactly how to read the whole Shiano comment.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. And like, I don't know, man. The main point for me is like, again, you already are in an NCAA investigation. I cannot see anyone being dumb enough in the middle of, the NCAA is on top of you like white on rice. I just can't envision them sending scout people out to games. And also, how do you even get away with filming in the crowd? Like, wouldn't that be kind of obvious? Like, if you're what do you film with a phone? You got
Yeah, with
not. I
your
mean, wouldn't
phone,
that be pretty obvious?
But then with your phone, wouldn't you have to have decent equipment? I guess I'm not as
No,
handy
you
as I
would.
should be
You
with a
would.
phone. Yeah, to
I can
shoot
tell you
all the
right
way
now, if
across
you're
the
in the
stadium.
yeah, unless you got seats right behind the coaching staff, like you would have to have camera phones. If you zoom in on a camera phone, the quality's terrible. I don't
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
you'd have to have a camera and you'd have to be sitting there filming the whole game with the camera. Like, I don't know, man. It's weird.
Yeah, and then I would also think, is there a possibility that these coaches or scouts, because I know this happened at Arizona State with some of the Herm Edwards stuff, acted in a rogue fashion? They went off on their own. Could that be possible?
You're saying like coaches just did their own thing
Yeah,
without the Jim Harbaugh and the
yeah, without
upper
them
coaching
knowing it.
staff?
Yeah.
Well, then you're getting into a situation where you'd have to prove communications, right? Like, if they went off and did some rogue things and the upper coaching staff didn't know, which I don't know how they want to know if you're going to a different state to watch a game. You know what I'm saying?
I know. I just threw it out there. I know.
Oh, and a lot of people are having some. Now this is real conspiracy here. Matt Weiss,
Yep.
the computer, the computer. I forget what exact terminology was. The computer hacking crime or whatever.
Yes.
We never did hear what that was. So I know this is getting real conspiratorial, but is it possible that he was doing something with like other teams? I mean, we're getting crazy here, but
Well, is it possible that he was doing something, or is it possible that he knows a few things and he's trying to get back at Michigan?
no, I know, but I'm talking about when he was on the staff, when he
Yes.
got in trouble
Yeah,
for.
sure.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I don't know. We're just getting through the weeds here. And the other thing is, NCAA takes forever with these things. I would think this would be a quick process, personally, because I feel like it'd be easy to prove. It'd probably be the easiest of. I feel like to prove if you had someone, if you were sending someone to games. Like, couldn't you watch stadium film and find, couldn't you watch stadium film and find if there's a staffer in the crowd if they really wanted to go that route?
Yeah. And maybe you start out by scanning ticket sales and where those went to.
And the schools could do that. They don't need permission, right? They could go through their ticket sales and figure out who bought the tickets. If they, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I hear you. It does seem pretty cut and dry to me. Yeah. Now,
So I don't know, man.
whether you can
Like,
prove or show in any way that somebody had equipment, though, might be difficult without actually having
that's
video
why I'd
of
be
the
so
equipment.
stupid, and it doesn't make. I saw a meme that had someone with like a NBC camera, and it said it was Jim Harbaugh during his suspension, and I'm just like, I just can't. It just sounds so stupid to
Well,
do.
there was also a note in here that it possibly could have happened before the 22 season. So we're talking 2021 and before.
Like what? Like through the whole tenure?
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a clear statement. This is in the ESPN article that says a source told ESPN's Adam Rittenberg that the NCAA's investigation also includes allegations of similar violations by Michigan prior to the 22 season.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, in terms of signal stealing, I think every team does that.
In terms
Actually, I
of on
know.
the field.
Yeah, on the field.
Yeah.
The scouting thing's a whole nother thing. I think Michigan fans got to realize, like, if you're sending, if that's clearly not allowed. I think since like 1994, I think is when they made that not allowed. It's clearly against the rules. Now, I don't think it really gives you that much of a competitive advantage personally. I don't. I mean, what are you really learning that you couldn't learn otherwise? I don't know what advantage does it give you?
Well,
I really don't understand. Like,
the
what
advantage is if just like I was going to liken it to baseball, but we'll stay with football. Just if you know that they're sending in a signal that they're going to do a certain type of blitz, then you know that's the call.
couldn't you learn that in all 22 though?
Yeah, but you don't know when they're going to do it.
But if you're here's what I'm confused. If you're in like the sixth row of a crowd and you're watching this, right?
Yeah.
What like you're seeing? What are you seeing from that vantage point that you're not seeing from all 22?
Okay. So this is the way I'm getting it, is that, yeah, depending on how, if we're talking about those huge signs that go out, which half of those are dummies anyway, in terms of sending in signals, that if they can, yeah, I'm trying to process this as well, because
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. Like the only advantage is, hey, coach, I watched them in person, and man, they're fast. Like what do you go? You're going back to your coach, right? Let's say you didn't even film it. You're going back to your coach, right? Yeah, they're fast. I mean, I can't really like help you in it. I mean, I saw it, but I'm telling you how fast they are. I know that doesn't like. How does that help who you're relaying the information to? I really don't get it.
Well, we will find out more at some point, but probably not until the off season.
Yeah, it's wild, man. I'm gonna get going, man. I mean, there ain't much to say right now. We're in the innocent so proven guilty part, and
Sure.
it could go either way. So,
Absolutely. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football, talking about the Michigan allegations coming down right now about sign stealing, basically advanced scouting of future opponents, scouting at the stadium, stealing signs. And let's hit our next caller. We got Stephen Light checking in. Stephen, how you doing today, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for taking my call. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Appreciate you being here.
Super. Yep. No, I'm glad to be here. The most entertaining part of this whole thing is listening to these Michigan guys rationalize away every possible contingency in this puzzle. But I think what's being missed here is that if you have a guy in the stands and he's at least a decent coach or somebody with knowledge of football, they can write down the time of the game and what was called from the sidelines, with the signs from the sidelines in notes. They don't need video equipment. They write it down in notes. Then they hand those notes over to the All-22 squad back home, and they line up the time that he observed to the All-22 tape. And now you've got a map of every call that the opposing team is going to use. And it's not like baseball where you have just a couple of signs and you might change a curveball to a fastball sign or a steal sign to a different sign. There's a lot of different signals coming in on a football call. You can't as easily change them up. You have to stay at least somewhat consistent so that you don't confuse everybody on the field. So what's happened here, perhaps, is an allegation still, is that Michigan has sent people into the stands, maybe more than one, so they can cross-reference them and make sure they got it right. They write down the signs, they hand it over to the staff syncs it up to the actual All-22 tape, which doesn't have the sideline view. Let's remember that. And then they've got the whole thing mapped out. And just to be snarky about it, and then I'll let you go on to the next caller, it would explain why Michigan has such a tough time in these bowl games. Because they don't know who's going to show up. They didn't know TCU was going to be their opponent, so they didn't send spotters to all the TCU games. But they sure know their Big Ten schedule for the year. So just send spotters to every Big Ten opponent, and there you got the puzzle.
So I'm understanding that if you are able to see the signs from the, so I had the same thought, but then I'm not understanding and not knowing of how many signs are being sent in in a visible way, or how many signs are coming in when, let's say, there's a change in personnel, or there's just a hand signal made by an assistant coach to the captain on the field who calls the defense.
Right. And if I were playing Michigan for the rest of the year, I'd send in my play calls via a player exchange. I do it the old way. Exchange the player personnel, have that guy communicate what the play is. Because if you have enough guys observing, you can say, here's these 3 guys, they watch the 3 assistant coaches. Here's these other 2 guys, they watch the signboards. And then they got a map. And all you do is you map up what everybody's observation was to the actual play. And you go, oh, okay, it was the assistant coach number 2 is giving the real signal. So, I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, you have to be good. You can't send me to the sideline to write this stuff down. I'd get absolutely nothing correct. But if you're a football pro, yeah, you could send them to the sideline. They could read it out. I mean, it is at least a possibility.
The first issue I would see in doing that, though, is you're allowing the other team, in this case, Michigan, to not dictate, but they are forcing you to alter your most preferred lineups. You're taking a player out every game or every play.
Yeah, but Mark, that's better than having them know if you're going to call a passing play or a RPO whatever play you're going to put in. That's the least desirable outcome, right? I mean, that's telling them, here's what I'm going to do. So I would rather have the exchange of players and saying, hey guys, it's this play.
Well, we'll be watching Michigan State on Saturday night to see if they alter their approach.
All right. Thanks for the time, Mark.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I appreciate you being here.
You bet. Take care.
All right, let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. We've got our guy Michael Hogue checking in. Michael, how you doing today?
Good, Mark. On a rainy Thursday, and yourself?
Doing just fine. What's going on?
Not much. One thing people is commenting in the stream, and I don't know if you got to see, is doing like they do in the NFL. Is if I got just have an earpiece in the quarterback's ear. But the thing is with that though, and I know the NFL had some issues with it several years ago. But what's to say if they was to do that, the other team doesn't get their frequencies and try to interrupt still?
Yeah, I know that in just the article that we just read to start the show here, there was talk about certain technology that's used in the NHL and college football, kind of still working on upgrading helmet and communications technology.
I mean, like, how much harder could it be to improve it? I mean, if the NFL's having success with it, what's the issue with college?
Yeah, I don't know. There are so many other more colleges to deal with. I don't know if that's the issue or what it is, or they just never addressed it because they just didn't think that was an issue that needed to be addressed.
Yep. And I will say this, though. You brought up a good point, Sassy. I remember there's times back when I was in high school playing football that this happened with ourselves and stuff. But, I mean, it was no big deal because never made any thing about it, though. But it did happen with our stuff like that, though. But back then, that was when coaches was actually allowed to go to schools and scout before you had all the video and stuff. So this has been going on since, like, what, the beginning of time? Coaches and stuff like that, scouting?
Yeah.
Before all the video
again,
stuff?
I think few people have an issue with sign stealing in the moment. It's more about the advanced stealing.
Mm-hmm. That's true. No, that's just all I want to say about it, because I know you got other people on the line. And like I said, if this has been going on from, I don't know if you read the ESPN article or from another one. I read the ESPN article and you brought it up. It was going on, I guess, since like way before last season too.
According to one source that talked to ESPN prior to 2022, yes, that this was going on.
But if it is proven and stuff like that, what's some of the sanctions they could possibly face though?
Well, are you asking me to come up with sanctions or try to predict what they're going to come up with?
No, what's the sanctions in general? What could they possibly be facing?
I don't know that we've got precedents for that. I know that it's happened before, but I don't know recently, or I cannot think of any particular situations where this has come up to where we know what the precedent is for penalties.
Yep, that's true. No, I was
I
just
would be
wondering.
extremely harsh. I would be so harsh on cheating. I know that in the past, especially concerning the NFL, have stated what I would penalize teams for, and they just can't believe it. Like, to me, if you're the New England Patriots and you are taping a practice before the Super Bowl, you're done. You are not eligible to win a Super Bowl. You're done. You're done. We're taking your Super Bowl championship away from you. But I know that the NFL doesn't do that because they're running a business and they don't want to discredit their championship game. So they basically showed everyone that this season we just played in this championship is null and void. They're not going to do that for business reasons. But if you cheated to gain an upper hand, what I don't, in some respects, don't think that there's a harsh enough penalty besides taking away every win, everything.
Yeah,
Why not?
I gotta ask you this: did you watch the UTEP New Mexico State game last night by any chance?
No, I did not.
There was at one point during the game last night that I was watching it, and they said they was talking about a person who was like, I guess he was like a climber or a bicyclist or something like that, was on top of one of the mountains there. And I've been to UTEP Stadium where they play, and anybody can go up there and watch practice. So they actually, I guess he's doing it like for a couple hours or something. They went up and asked him and stuff like that. Are you affiliated with any team and stuff like that? But no, like another place where I used to live when I was living up in West Lafayette, right across the street from where I lived was Purdue practice facility. And there was times where if I wanted to, I could like record and done stuff, but I didn't do it though. But what can they do about it? But I do gotta ask you this though: is this, in your opinion, could this be a death penalty offense?
No. Now, I posted Sue's statement right there, and maybe she was stating she agreed with me because she thought I was headed a certain direction, or maybe she was agreeing with somebody else in the chat. When I say I would wipe everything out and there couldn't be a harsh enough penalty, I would not take away the football program because it just affects way too many people that were innocent. So I would not take away the football program.
Yeah.
I would wipe all the wins off the table. They would all go away. And it's unfortunate that, again, we always have to catch up on these things years later. But we're in a process where this coach has been here for 7 or 8 years. And if, in fact, they're cheating, then you at least penalize the right people at the top, the athletic director, the coach that are still there.
Could this also be a show cause? If it is proven and Harbaugh was fired, would they also include a show cause?
In what respect?
I guess like with the Kelvin Sampson incident a few years ago, when he was at IU about 10 to 15 years ago, before there was like a 5-year show cause to where if he applied, they had to go do some kind of to show if he was okay and had to get approval from the NCAA or something before he can coach again.
Well, yeah, I would think that would be in play too. Absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
My last thing before I go, Michigan fans, why don't you, and Ohio State fans, or just people in general, why don't you just look at it from non-Michigan fan point of view and gather the evidence like that instead of like people, Ohio State fans saying they should get the death penalty, or Michigan fans saying they didn't do anything, and stuff like that. Just look at the fact before you come to your conclusions.
Absolutely, Michael. We can all be level-headed about this and understand, okay, if this is your opponent, your rival doing this, understand that we could find out the same thing 3 days later about your team. So let's all understand that, number one. And number two, if it's your team being attacked, we all need to kind of chill out and understand these are not personal attacks. That doesn't mean that Michigan fans are bad people. They have nothing to do with this. So they shouldn't feel like they need to defend their football team or their football program. If we were all truly unbiased, we'd be able to look at this issue exactly the same. From different perspectives and angles, we would all be able to do it level-headed and unemotionally and do it the same and just look at the facts, or the proposed facts and the allegations, but just people are unable to do that generally.
Yeah. One last thing. Your bottom 10. I have to disagree with number 6 and number 1. They should have both been switched. Brian Ferentz should have been number 1.
Okay, well, understand, I wasn't really ordering them worst
I
next to
know.
worst in that. I was just throwing out kind of
I
a fun
know.
list of 10.
I'm just having fun with it and stuff like that. But
I
no,
thought you were going to point out
Macias,
Julio
no, man.
Macias.
No, man. That guy is just, I feel so bad for him, though, man.
Yeah.
Because kickers have the mentality like, am I ever going to make another field goal again? When they've been missing some and stuff like that, you wonder if they ever, what the mentality is like right now.
I don't know. Well, fortunately for him, they're not playing important enough games at this point for it to matter.
True. And the other kicker should be coming back. Should be back for the Nebraska game next week. All right, Mark. I've took enough of your time. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I might try to sneak on later tonight.
Thank you, Michael. I
See ya.
appreciate it. Have a good
Thanks.
night.
Bye.
The Tom Brady situation comes to mind about the inflation of the footballs before the AFC playoff game against the Colts. And people ask me, what should the penalty be? And it said, forfeit the playoff game. You're out of the playoffs. You forfeit your wins or whatever happened there. What? That's crazy. No, it's not crazy. You cheated. If it's not that important of how much the football should be inflated, then don't do it. There's one thing we know about cheating. We know that if it wasn't determined by the cheater that it was valuable enough to cheat, then they wouldn't have done it. Regardless of whether they're making a smart decision, it's obviously a bad decision. But whether they're reasonably calculating the risk versus the reward, well, that's their problem. The deal is that they determined, anytime I've heard people make the defense that, well, it didn't really matter that much, or they cheated, but it didn't really give them that much of an advantage. Who cares? It doesn't matter. They cheated. and if they didn't believe that it was giving them a significant advantage, significant means, it doesn't necessarily mean large. Significant means enough to make a difference. So why would anyone cheat if they didn't believe it was going to give them an advantage that would make a difference? Otherwise, why would you cheat? If I'm playing checkers with a 4-year-old and I believe I can beat him, I'm not going to cheat because I don't need to cheat. If I play checkers with somebody or chess with somebody that I have a risk of losing, well, then I'm going to cheat. And then I can't claim, well, I would beat them anyway. I'm so much better than they are, but I was just making sure. Well, no, you made the decision to cheat. Number one, that's the most important thing. It's morally wrong. It's ethically wrong. Therefore, should be punished harshly. And then number two, nobody cheats who doesn't believe that it makes a difference, because that's the whole idea of cheating, is that it's going to make a difference in the outcome. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. If Team A was going to beat Team B 50-7, but because of cheating, they win 50-0, then why would you cheat just to increase your ability to blow somebody out? All right, let's keep it moving here. The voice of college football. We got Mike Biggs on the line. What's going on?
Hey, Mark, how you doing today?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
I'm just frustrated. It's like it just never seems to end. Been a Michigan fan since like the early 90s, right? So the 90s were pretty good. And then like the 2000s happened. I took a nap. I woke up, I don't know what happened from the year 2000 to 2020. And we started finally winning again. And it's just like always something. So first it's the burger gate. We buy a kid a burger, we get in trouble. And now it's this. It just, I don't know if it's just me or not, but it's just like, I think the NCAA is pretty much useless most of the time, but it seems like they have something at Jim Harbaugh or Michigan. Maybe it's just I'm a Michigan fan, that's the way I see it. But it's like SEC just, giving kids bags of cash, no big deal. Don't worry about it. Like after LSU won the title, OBJ's just passing out money to kids. Don't look at it, no big deal. But Michigan is scouting teams, because I thought you're allowed to scout teams as long as you're not using electronic equipment to gather the information. aren't you allowed to send somebody to watch the games? Isn't that what
No,
scouting is?
no, you are not.
So you can't scout other teams, because I know in like in Texas sports, like that's what growing up, like they would send you go scout the other team that you're going to
Sure.
play.
Advanced scouting. Sure.
Yes.
I don't know at what point this rule came into effect, but it states that, quote, off campus in person scouting of future opponents in the same season is prohibited.
Okay. All right. It just never seems to end. I don't know. It's just like when Michigan's doing good. I mean, I personally think it will just drag out and to the off season, of course, and then I just have a feeling nothing's going to come out. But maybe it could. I really hope that it doesn't, because I don't know why Michigan would be trying to steal signals from Rutgers and Nebraska. It's like, were we stealing signals when the Rutgers got that 65-yard touchdown on the first play? Like, I don't understand it. Like, and we're better in the second half, right? So you were saying earlier, if we're stealing signals, wouldn't we just be dominant from the get-go? If you know what you're going to do, especially your first 10 scripted plays, you know
Yeah.
what you're doing, right? This doesn't make sense to me at all. And it's just
No, it doesn't make
frustrating.
any sense. No, it doesn't make any sense. I agree with that.
It's just frustrating. Now it's like, all I see, I just kind of hopped offline, because it's getting old. It's like all the Ohio State people I'm kind of friends with. I got
Sure.
a few of you. I think you're one of them for sure that I follow, because you have actual some sense. But the ones that don't is like, oh, this is the only reason Michigan beat Ohio State. They stole the signals. This is what we did. So I guess Michigan knew Ohio State wasn't going to tackle us on those 75-yard runs. That's what we knew. Like just run right up the gut. We've been doing it all game. We stole the signals. We know they won't guard it in the fourth quarter. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, this, so many unreasonable fans out there, just gets frustrating, because Michigan finally wins again, and this is always something coming back up. But I really hope that it's not what they say it is.
In terms of Harbaugh, unless you remind me of something I've forgotten about, I can see where the NCAA would have an issue with Harbaugh now. He was not cooperative in the last investigation. He basically said, you're going to have to figure it out. I'm not cooperating. So he didn't cooperate this last time. Before that, I don't know of any issues Jim Harbaugh's had with the NCAA that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, he's Jim Harbaugh has always been an odd, duck, just to, use the term, right? But yeah, he didn't cooperate with the burger thing. And, I'm sure he just, it's just weird what the NCAA chooses to investigate, right? I mean, don't you find that a little odd? Like, all the things that go on in the NCAA, and it's a burger that they investigate, right? And then some Zoom calls that they did with like potential recruits. It's
Well,
just
I
so
think there's a
weird with
few
all the
different.
things that are going on behind the
Yep.
scenes with
Oh,
money getting dropped off. Like, it's like, I think that's why NIL is kind of good now, because it's leveled the playing field with, like, especially the SEC in a sense. Out, like all that money. There's no proof of it, but I'm assuming a lot of kids were getting bags of cash, and now that's kind of leveled out because other schools can kind of give, even though Michigan really doesn't do it that way. They pay they NIL the kids after they've been there. It's kind of how they do it. But it's just kind of frustrating with all the things that go on with the NCAA chooses to investigate. I don't know.
well, even with an NIL and most of this now being legal and there being cash given to players legally within the guidelines, it's still unsavory and it's still against the rules in many ways. It's not supposed to be an inducement and enticement. There are all sorts of things that are going on that are still against the rules, but the NCAA doesn't get involved in any of that because they don't want to get sued, and so they stay out of that. The biggest issue in college football right now is NIL from a violation standpoint, and the NCAA is completely void of getting involved in any of that. The NCAA gets involved in things because not because they're so smart and know what's going on out there, because they take leads like they did in this case. Somebody complains to them, and then they have something to go on, some evidence, and then they follow up on it. And that's basically what they've become. They just wait for schools to tell on each other, and then they follow up on the investigation and they hand out penalties. They're actually supposed to be a leadership. They're supposed to be leading the sport, but they've morphed into just this rules violations enforcement agency. That's all they do.
And I could totally just see why Harbaugh would want to entertain the NFL, right? Why would you want to be in the NCAA when, or in college when you're just dealing with this stuff all the time? It's just, I mean, it's
Well, I wouldn't
frustrating.
want to be. I would much rather be an NFL head coach than a college coach anyway, with NIL, especially, and now the transfer portal, where those go on in the NFL, but it's obviously
Yeah,
just you're paying players. They're professionals. They get paid. You have a salary cap. You know exactly. It's all above board. There's nothing shady going on. You don't have to compete. Yes, you compete in the free agent market, but with a couple players per off
exactly.
season, and that's all you deal with. They're constantly trying to keep their own players from leaving, and then looking out to see on the free agent, the quote unquote transfer portal free agent market, to see who's out there and can, let's say we'll just take Michigan for example. Can we outbid Notre Dame, Penn State, and Michigan State for this offensive tackle that we want? And oh my goodness, it would be such a shoot. I would
This
not want anything to do with any of
and
it.
and I think that's why Michigan will probably still not ever be a top 10, like on average top. They're 8 to 15 recruiting classes normally, but they're not going to be top because they don't pay the kids before they get there, right? You haven't done anything. Like you should. I mean, like Blake Corum gets a lot of money now because he stayed through the
Yes.
NIL, right? So that makes sense. You've proven yourself. You're good college athlete. Now you can make some money here. But if you haven't done anything, like in a sense, I just think that's why a lot of these other schools are just typically in the higher rankings, because I think they get a lot of money up front, like Florida, right? Florida just gives them money up front, even if they can't afford it, they're giving the money up front, and then, but yeah, it's just a change of football. I like NIL for certain things, but other reasons. When I was growing up, you like for instance, you had your junior quarterback, and then you knew you had a freshman, a redshirt freshman that was there that was going to stay, and then when the senior left, you had like the sophomore, the junior that took over. You always had someone. Now it's like if you don't win the
Absolutely.
starting job, you're gone. You're like,
Absolutely. I've
I'm
I've
gone.
laid
I'm
that
quit.
out a number of times. You
Yeah.
saw almost every program had like a formula, and you could see it on the roster where you could see, okay, that's the dependable back. Here's your starter. He's probably going to play 2 years, and there's your dependable backup, and he's a program guy. And then here's the guy you're developing, and maybe two guys you're developing, and they're just going to follow in line. And unless somebody shows up on campus and just blows everybody away as a freshman, basically it's going to go through that succession. And the problem with NIL and with the transfer portal is that, not just in theory, I believe in them as rights. I believe that they are proper as rights, as
Mhm.
American citizens, to be able to go to school wherever you want to go to school, to be able to earn money through your name, image, and likeness, just like any other American can. But when you put it all together as an institution, it's out of control, and it's not good for the sport at all. It's
No.
horrible.
And I remember when in the 90s with the Fab Five, where I remember Chris Webber talked about, he's like, you know what it's like to go into your local mall, and you see number 4 jerseys and Nike shoes with your name on it, and you get no money for it at all. It's like, it's I think the kids should get money off their name, image, and likeness, but just do it properly. Just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too old. I don't know. I'm just not up
Well,
with the times.
this is how
But
I see it, and think it should run. And it's not, it's an inducement, but there should be no specific talk of NIL, money, contracts, or collectives or anything for let's say a particular student athlete is looking at Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, and they're in the running. There should be no way for them to specifically say, "Oh, I got a $800,000 contract if I go to Ohio State. Well, I got
mhm.
$950,000 contract if I go to Penn State." Da, 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 da. No, it should just be, you can obviously, you're free to talk to any student athlete you want. You can talk to the players currently on the team, and talk to them about what they have if they're willing to talk to you. We do have this collective. It's called X, Y, and Z, and we have this other collective called, and this is what they've done for other athletes. And so you can kind of show them, this is what's available to you. This is what's going on right now, but we cannot directly offer you anything. You're not a student, you're not enrolled, you're not signed, you're nothing. That's completely going against what this is supposed to be. And it's wrong and it should be stopped. But there's nobody that's got the balls or the guts or has the authority to do it. That's supposed to be the NCAA, but they don't.
Yeah. Well, I won't take much more of your time. Just once again, I appreciate all your content. I've been watching for years. I think I may have called in one other time, but it's rare I barely ever call in. But I was just frustrated, so I want to talk, vent to that a
course.
little bit. But I appreciate all you do, Mark. It's always good content, and you're the one Buckeye fan that as Oh, back real quick with the Tom Brady thing with the deflated balls. Another part about that story was ESPN came out with that story saying 11 of the 16 were under, inflated, but it
Yeah.
was actually like 3 or 4 of them that were underflated, right? That whole story spun out of control real quick before they had any of the facts down, right? And whether you think of Tom Brady or not, they gave him properly inflated balls in the second half, and he had a better second half than he did first half. And then in that same Super Bowl, he beat, the Seahawks with the best defense and one of the best fourth quarters that people have. I don't think if he deflated the balls or not, I don't know. It never really came, it never really got settled. But
I'm
cheating is
with you.
cheating. I completely agree with you. But that whole situation was just out of control from the get-go.
Yes,
It
the
was just,
inflation of
yeah,
footballs does not make Tom Brady a great quarterback. As long as
yeah.
you could hand him a football, and as long as it's an NFL football and it's properly inflated to some degree, he's the greatest of all time, and he is going to be
Because
be able to,
I
to
remember,
to work his craft. Now,
I rem-
knowing what a stickler he is and what a perfectionist, I'm sure he wants it inflated to a certain degree.
Oh, well, Aaron Rodgers came out and said that same time that he actually overinflates his to be a little bit slightly like on the
Yeah.
edge of too much inflation, right? So all these quarterbacks, the great ones are always really anal about everything, right?
Mhm.
So I'm sure he
Yeah.
did, right? But yeah, that was just funny when you brought that up because when that happened, it was like, I got being a Tom Brady fan, it was just like Tom Brady cheats, he's no good. I was like, the guy still won 7 Super Bowls. I don't know what you think, but uh, we'll end on that. But thanks again for everything, Mark. And I'll try to call him more often. It's always good chatting with you.
Absolutely. Call anytime. Appreciate your
All right, you take care,
support.
bud. All right, bye.
Yeah, see, Ohio State and Michigan fans can get along. We can get along. Maybe not on the last Saturday of November, but we can get along. But I'm here, win or lose. You know that. Boom, I'm in this chair like 3 seconds after the final score of Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, whatever the game is. We are here talking college football with all of you. Appreciate everybody stopping by. And please hit the like button. You can do that if you enjoy the content. Even if you don't agree with me, please hit the like button if you enjoy the best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's our aim, goal, and mission. That's what we try to do. Don't always hit it, but we do our best. All right. We got JR on the line. JR, what's going on? Hello, JR. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think it
There you
all
are.
makes sense
How's it
to
going
me.
today?
Yeah, good. Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. What do you think
Good.
of this?
Oh, I think it all makes sense from every angle. You know me, I'm an Ohio
Okay.
State fan, but I agree with the Michigan fans on a lot of things too. I guess I'll start there so that way the Michigan fans don't get too upset with me. I think that the NCAA is obviously against Jim Harbaugh. I think that Jim Harbaugh is for player revenue sharing. I think that Jim Harbaugh is pretty stubborn and doesn't want to work with them. And we know that the NCAA wants to be bowed down to in a lot of ways. And so, from everything I see with Jim Harbaugh, they just don't like him. And I think the SEC bias is real, like your last caller was talking about, and some of those things. So, as far as the NCAA and Jim Harbaugh rivalry, which seems to be as strong as Ohio State versus Michigan now, I think it all completely makes sense. Am I over exaggerating it?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind regarding the SEC, and this has been pretty obvious, although I can't prove anything, that if you go back to the 90s and early 2000s on into the 2000s, everybody in the SEC was on probation all the it just never stopped. Shoot, I worked uh, covering Alabama, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State for 7 years, and they were all on probation for football and basketball just in those 7 years. 3 schools, both sports, 7 years. Florida was on probation. Everybody was on probation. There was like a 15-year period where everybody in the SEC was on probation. Well, Greg Sankey took over, and shoot fire, I can't remember the commissioner prior to Sankey. Boy, I'm losing my mind. The commissioner before Sankey actually basically pulled things together, and this comes from a lot of different sources to say we are killing ourselves. You people are, you're turning each other in. Leave it alone. Recruit against each other. Do whatever you need to do. Just let it go, and it will be better for all of you and for the entire league if we stay out of trouble. So what did we see after that? You hardly ever see anybody from the SEC on probation over the last 20 years. So that's that. In terms of Harbaugh, you bring up some really good points about why the NCAA would have it out for Jim Harbaugh. The only one that I could hit on was the most recent, and that's that he was completely uncooperative. And I think to a certain extent, Jim Harbaugh just wants to say, kind of throw up the middle finger at any of the establishment if it gets in the way of him just being a head coach, him doing what he wants to do, and him being a very, say what you will about the guy, being somewhat, he's not aloof. When I think of aloof people, I think of people that don't relate to other people and communicate and aren't real people, authentic. He's all that. He loves people. He loves coaching. He loves the human side of it. But he's kind of aloof mentally. He kind of is just out there and just thinks of things just different than most people. So he's aloof in that way. And I just think that he thinks, here's this organization. They're corrupt to a certain extent. I'm not saying the NCAA is corrupt top to bottom all the way through. They've certainly pursued things and penalized people and teams and programs that needed it, but there has been corruption in the NCAA. Here's a corrupt organization. Here's an ineffective organization. And here's, in many ways, an unproductive, and I'm looking for another word. Here. The NCAA. Ineffective. I used that term. There was something else that hit home. But basically, Jim Harbaugh sees that as a very practical thinker, that why do I let them dictate to me what I'm trying to do? I'm going to run a clean program, but hey, if I want to do this or want to do that, and it violates some bylaw 860 that doesn't really matter, it's not hurting anyone, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I think that's where how he conducts himself as a coach and as a person. And I got to say that I conduct myself in a similar manner. It's the first time I've ever compared myself to Jim Harbaugh. Certainly I work for organizations, and while I tried to be an upstanding employee, yeah, there were certain things where I'd be like, you know what? I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to challenge that, because that's stupid and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't help me, doesn't help the staff, doesn't help people, doesn't help the business. It's in play for this person or that person to protect their turf or whatever. It's based on stupidity, corruption, whatever it is. So we are going to challenge those things. And we'll see if anybody catches me, if anybody turns me in, if anybody thinks it's a big deal, or they just say, you know what, Mark's going to do what Mark's going to do. So I can respect that portion of it. All right. Appreciate everybody being here at the Voice of College Football. Okay. We got JR back with us. JR, what's up?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And that's where I do kind of sympathize with Harbaugh, because I think he probably has some level of process something isn't right. And I do commend him for sticking up if he does have that conviction to think that there's something going on that isn't right. And my second thing that I think completely makes sense is, and please don't hear me say anything bad about Harbaugh here, because I just said all those nice things about him, but I think that it makes sense that after the 2020 season, Harbaugh would be feeling the heat a little bit more to try and win and try to, do whatever he could to win in such way. I mean, you think about it. The dude loves Michigan. The dude, I mean, he is all about being a Michigan man and all the traditions there, everything else. I think the Matt Weiss stuff is kind of crazy personally. But as far as Jim Harbaugh taking an additional step to try and do what he can to win, it makes sense. He doesn't want to get fired. He already got a pay cut. He was struggling all through COVID, which probably wasn't anything on his coaching. It was just, COVID and stuff like that, and the Big Ten, making that hard on all the coaches. But it makes sense to me that he would have some type of conviction to say, I got to do something here. I don't want to get fired by my alma mater. And I want to help that. I left the NFL. I left a team that I could have taken to the Super Bowl possibly. Or did he go to the Super Bowl, or was it just the?
Yes, once.
Yeah, he could have won a Super Bowl with. So, I mean, he gave up so much just to go to his alma mater where he didn't have the immediate success that he thought he might have. And he had fans saying he should be fired. He took a pay cut. I mean, I do sympathize with the guy somewhat because he probably was thinking to himself, I got to do something here to win because I'm not winning right now. And I don't want the shame of being fired and not being able to help my university. You think I'm off base there?
Well, it's funny because that was going to be my next point, is going through all this as people have asked me questions, and I've not taken any time to think about this. I heard about this a couple hours ago. I was in the middle of so many other things. I couldn't focus on it. So I just thought, hey, we're calling a live stream. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to read through it along with everyone else. So 90% of you are way ahead of me in probably investigating some of these articles that have different angles and different information to them. But it certainly went through my mind. And this is in no way me attacking Jim Harbaugh or spewing some kind of allegation out of nowhere. I'm just stating these are facts that Michigan was recruiting at a certain level, and they were winning 9 and 10 games a year from the time he took over, which he did a great job of taking a 5-win team and elevating it. But once he did, they were pretty much the same team from 2015 through 19 for 5 consecutive years. They're going 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 every year, losing a bowl game, and they're nowhere close to Ohio State most of those seasons, 2016 being an exception. Okay. Then what are they doing now on the recruiting trail? Are they recruiting any better today than they were then? No, they're not. Their recruiting rankings, including recruiting production, has not increased at all over the couple recruiting cycles that would be producing these last 2 championship teams. So what do we credit? The coaching staff. They've made a lot of changes on both sides of the ball. That the coaching, those are the discussions I've had most notably with Steve Deace on Michigan podcast. It's crediting all these coaching changes of just being the right coaching changes to make. But I don't know that Jim Harbaugh has magically changed or become a better head coach. He was already a great head coach at San Francisco and Stanford. So the talent hasn't been, at least if you believe in the recruiting rankings, which I do, that doesn't mean you don't have a 3-star who becomes a great player and you don't have a 5-star that's a bust. But we're talking about 25 players signed each year, year after year after year after year, that if you're recruiting in the 12 to 15 range in the country and you're going 9-3 roughly for 5 consecutive years, and then suddenly you're still recruiting at that level and you're going 11-1, 12-0, what happened?
Exactly. I was going to bring up the same thing.
I'm not making an accusation. I'm just making a statement. What happened?
Right. Exactly. And I want to be clear. I'm not trying to say that he's obviously a bad guy. He resorted to these bad levels and stuff like that. I hate when people do that with coaches. The Michigan fans love to do that about Urban Meyer and talk about how terrible of a guy he is. And I'm not saying he's a saint by any means, but like at the end of the day, we don't know these guys personally. Why? Who are we to make personal attacks on these guys. We don't know anything about them other than they coach our football teams. I'm sure there's a Michigan fan in the chat saying Urban Meyer's a gross disgusto, and Mel Tucker is too right now, whatever. But, that was kind of just my whole thing is like, when I looked at this, I saw, Jim Harbaugh, he got in trouble with the COVID recruiting stuff in 2020. Right after 2020, he brings in all of these coaches, makes all of these changes, obviously is redoing his program in some kind of way to make this happen. And whether he knew it or not, because you're exactly right, it could be like the Herm Edwards situation where he is just completely unknowing of all this. It's not unlikely that, a coach could go to a game and just bring a notepad and watch the signs. I mean, that's how, if I'm not mistaken, that's how Dabo Sweeney's guys did it. They watched the signs for most of the half. They picked it up. They wrote them down. They figured it out. And then by the time it was the second, third, or fourth quarter, they were able to predict what was going on. And so, if you have one coach going to a game, getting the right seat, and he's got a notebook with him, he's writing down, or an analyst or whoever it might be, he's right. They don't necessarily need the video equipment. They don't necessarily need, these coaches know so much more about football and signs and all those things than most of us normal people will ever know. I don't know if actually you do, because you had Zach Smith on that one time, his podcast, and he talks about this kind of stuff all the time. Is like, there is so much that goes on in coaching. There is so much knowledge that coaches have that we have no idea about. And so it makes total sense to me that a coach could buy a ticket, go to a game, or an analyst could buy a ticket, go to a game, bring a notepad with them, write stuff down, and figure out, a good idea, maybe not all of the signs, but a good idea of the signs by the end of the game.
It's exactly what's done in every other professional sport, but it's just done above the board and legally within the rules, and it's outlawed and against the rules in college football.
Exactly.
But I would think that it would be fairly easy, and this is easy for me to say sitting here, but there are people that are professional investigators that would be able to determine pretty quickly, were there Michigan coaches at future opponents' games? That could be determined, again, fairly easily.
Right. And, Zach also mentioned this on his podcast. He said it doesn't have to just be somebody who's a coach. I think he said the exact wording is like anyone loyal to the program. So that could be extended out even as far as like John Harbaugh or something like that. So not necessarily him. Obviously, people are going to recognize if he's at a Rutgers game or something like that. But anybody who would have some kind of loyalty to the program, who would know what they're doing. He told a story about how they had, I think it was a GA that worked at Ohio State under Urban Meyer. The dude went to go meet his girlfriend and go to a Georgia Tech game. Well, when he got back, Urban Meyer flipped out and said, "Why did you go to that game?" And he's like, "Dude, I was just drinking with my friend."
Hey, JR, we lost you. Yeah, we missed the entire story. But JR, we appreciate it. Call back anytime. Thanks. All right, let's march through these super chats. So I'm guessing what the story was is that at first I thought Urban Meyer had the conversation to send the GA to the Georgia Tech game, but apparently this was when he was at Florida. He did not know about, so I'm filling in the blanks, but we don't know one way or the other whether he was actually wanting to cheat or was mad that the coach went rogue and violated NCAA rules. Who knows? And then you determine, do we self-report or not? All right. Stephen Light says this explains Harbaugh's dismal bowl record. And Stephen mentioned that on the phone. Thank you so much for the super chat. They did not know where to send the prohibited spotters to. Mike, thank you so much for the contribution. NCAA is out for hairball, nothing hamburger. All right. Good stuff from Mike 3883 there. Nick, Appreciate you being here. The incessant weeping and gnashing of teeth from the media and rival fans grasping for any reason why U of M is good is amazing. This looks like a vendetta. The NCAA's against Jim Harbaugh clowns. Well, okay. So weeping and gnashing of teeth. Wow, we're going biblical there. That's a bit strong. From the media, what's the media have to do with it? I don't see anything from the media besides reporting. Now, I have a lot of issues with the media, and most of it has nothing to do with sports reporting, although it does cross the line into sports reporting. It's more in the news arena. But the incessant weeping and gnashing of teeth from the media. So again, you would have to show me here, Nick, where is the media out of control or out of bounds in attacking Michigan? There is an investigation by the NCAA. So the media is simply reporting on the investigation. Even if this investigation was completely off the rails and unsubstantiated, well, the media would still have the obligation to report that there is an investigation ongoing. Rival fans. Okay, rival fans, that works both ways. So, yes, are rival fans going to be grasping at this? Is not grasping at something. This is like thrown in their lap. So Nick, I love your comments and appreciate your contributions, but I sometimes have to interpret and I have to straighten up like every phrase, because are rival fans grasping for anything? No, it's slapping them right in the face. They don't have to grasp for anything. It's a layup. It's handed right to them. When your rival is on NCAA investigation for allegations, and they're still in the midst of an NCAA investigation for allegations, and the university just self-imposed a suspension of the head coach. If we could only go back 12 or 13 years and see the comments by Michigan fans about Jim Tressel and Tattoo-gate, which any reasonable person in today's climate would say, wow, that is ridiculous. But it was against the rules. It was against the rules. Okay, I'm going to save my further thoughts on that because we don't need to go back 13 years. We can do that during the off season. This looks like a vendetta the NCAA has against Jim Harbaugh. That's possibly the most reasonable thing you said. You might be right. But you might be right. However, there is such a thing as having a vendetta that you make things up. But there's also such a thing as having a vendetta, and therefore you try harder to look for things that actually did happen. So you have every right to go after that individual for things that are wrong, but you're just doing it a little bit harder, focusing a little bit more or a lot more on that particular program, team, or coach. But if they're doing things wrong, they're doing things wrong. And it's all going to come down to, were there Michigan scouts, coaches, or, as was stated on the last phone call and apparently stated by Zach Smith, people who are loyal to the program scouting other teams. And regardless of what the vendetta is by the NCAA, if that can be proven and that actually happened, then that's a violation. Okay. So the NCAA can be classified as clowns, but not necessarily for the reason that you're citing. All right. We got Mike 3883. Wolverines stole UNLV's signs. It explains it all. Absolutely. That was my upset pick of the week. I knew that the Runnin' Rebels would just take Michigan to the woodshed, would win that game. That explains everything. I had that game pegged to a T. Brian's here. Appreciate you being here, Brian. Everything he said can be done all 22. So everything, basically, if we're going back to a phone call about the sign exchange, I believe Stephen Light's phone call was basically saying you have somebody in the crowd who's taking down the counter time and then syncing that up with the all 22 film to determine what signs were being sent into the game at what point there were these formations and plays run. All right, let's keep it going here at the Voice of College Football. We got Christopher on the line.
Hey, Mark.
Hello, sir.
How are you?
I'm doing just fine. How are you? Thanks for waiting.
Oh, no, no problem. I don't mind waiting. I appreciate you taking time for me, to be honest with you.
Of course.
Anyway, I don't want to rehash what you've already talked about because that doesn't really, I really don't know what the infraction is, and I probably couldn't offer much as far as explanation regardless. But in my opinion, though, I wouldn't think any credible team or coach or would necessarily intentionally want to break a rule. So I'm kind of wondering if is it more smoke than fire, maybe. I know that they probably, I don't necessarily doubt that there might be people that, I don't know, what would it be? Would it be a game or a scrimmage, Mark? Would it be, they're not allowed in the scrimmages, are they? To where they can see what they're actually putting together that's not allowed, is it, to attend a scrimmage?
Well, no, these are closed practices. Like everybody holds closed practices. So everyone there is either they're all closed, but the media has access to certain practices or certain portions of practice, but they have to have media credentials.
That's kind of my point. I think the useful information I would think maybe I'm wrong about this, but I would think from I guess I can call it in a scrimmage. I guess I probably shouldn't do that, but the whatever it is they do when they're making the preparations, I would think that's where the meaningful information would be coming from, less so than from the game time stuff. I don't even know how they can really even, that one guy said you could like track it somehow, and maybe with like a computer, I don't know. Match things up and put them together, and or maybe if there's somebody that's just like really smart, and I know these coaches are smart, but are they that smart to where they can actually tap into the strategy that's actually being, if they're that smart, then good for them, I guess. I don't know even if that's necessarily cheating, if they can actually figure out what the other team is doing before the other team actually even puts it together. I don't know. That's to me, that's more than just advanced scouting. I don't even know what we call that, but I guess what I'm trying to tell you is I don't know that I see it as cheating unless that there's like an attempt to really make it to where it's an unfair advantage, I guess. And if it is unfair, then I guess it is cheating, but maybe it shouldn't, maybe that's something that should be, what's the problem with letting somebody go and watch a game or come back and tell you what you learned about the other team? I don't really see how that's a big issue myself, but maybe you can help me understand why that's a problem. But I would think that'd be part of game preparation, not knowing much about football. I don't really know a whole lot about it, but I would think, or watching game film, that's not, so I'm not quite sure I understand what the infraction is. Maybe you can help me understand that.
So the bylaw is that no scout or coach or anyone affiliated with the team can go watch a future opponent in person on campus.
On campus.
But that's obviously something that's done in professional sports all the time. Major League Baseball teams have advanced scouts that go out and constantly go to the series of the upcoming opponent and sit in the stands and watch the games and take notes. And it's done in all sports. But for some reason, in college football, college athletics, they prohibit it. So it is against the rules.
Okay. Well, again, and then the other thing I thought maybe I'd just throw at you. You seem to think it should include like, I don't know, is it suspensions or I don't know. I guess the way I look at it, and I'm not anybody that would know necessarily what the rule would be, punishment, I guess, for the crime or whatever. But if it all falls back on Harbaugh, I think the simple, I'm sorry, I hope I don't piss people off by saying this, but if that's what it's all about, then just fire him. To me, that's like fairly simple solution if that's who's responsible for it. But rather than like vacate wins or whatever else you were saying. If he's ultimately the one that's breaking the rules, if that's in fact what's happening, I think, I don't know, maybe I'm too old school in that philosophy, but maybe, I don't know, I guess give a person another break or whatever. But if he's like knowingly involved with it, I think you why not just let him go? I don't quite understand why we have to why do we have to give these people second chances if they know that they're breaking the rules? I mean, I guess maybe we should, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, if in fact Michigan did break the rules, that's the University of Michigan's decision whether to employ Jim Harbaugh. That's nobody else's decision.
But I mean, if he's knowingly, I mean, that's where I come into it. It's like if he's knowingly breaking the rules, then it's like that's not something necessarily that falls back on. I mean, that's him. Get rid of him. If that's, I mean, assuming that's what's happening. I mean, I guess you could penalize the whole program, but that's kind of what I don't know that I understand what that's all about. Penalize the whole program for what one person's responsible for. It's kind of like Jerry Sandusky. I mean, I don't mean to bring that up again, but if it really is one person, then let him take the fall. Don't blame Jerry Paterno or Joe Paterno I mean, I know that there's like complicity and all that sort of thing, but I don't know. I just kind of think the person, the offender. I mean, punish the offender. Don't punish people that maybe turn a blind eye to it. I don't know how that's really a crime.
Okay. So I completely agree with you, Chris. If at all possible, to whatever degree needs to be taken to punish the right person or people involved. And we both know that depending on the situation, there have been situations in which a coach was acting alone, or a couple coaches, or maybe an entire coaching staff. And then there are other situations where the coaching staff was cheating, plus the athletic department knew about it, the athletic director, maybe the administration. So there are various levels of knowledge of the wrongdoing. And then I am right there with you. This has been a problem for decades with the NCAA, and that's punishing the wrong people and levying out penalties that impact, unfortunately, innocent, usually student athletes who are just playing the games and are innocent in the process, and penalizing, taking away championships and wins and all of that. However, it's extremely difficult to specify those allegations and the penalties to just penalize the people of guilt, if you follow me.
Yeah, no, I understand. I mean,
so for example, real quick, in this matter, there's an unfair advantage. If in fact this happened, there's an unfair advantage given to Michigan over their opponents. So their opponents are being cheated. So what is the result and the intent and the result of this cheating? It's to win a football game. So why would you not take away the win from that team?
You don't think it might not be sour grapes? Greg Schiano not getting the win. Hey,
that's a whole other situation. Maybe it is sour grapes. Yeah, but we're talking about if this team cheated, if this program in fact cheated, then isn't the most exact response is to take away what the cheating resulted in? And that's a victory. That's the whole reason you cheat, is to win the game. No, I mean, I don't disagree with you on that. I just, I guess those are things I kind of feel like are hard to prove, maybe. Can you prove that it changed the result, maybe? Or, I mean, maybe you don't have to. No, you can't. No, not at all. We cannot prove that it changed the result, but why do we need proof that it changed the result? If somebody cheated, they cheated.
Well, Rutgers didn't really exactly. I mean, it was, what was it, 2 quarters, 3 quarters? I mean, they were in the game.
But Chris, are you actually going to judge how close the game was to see if the cheating was effective?
Well, I don't know how else to do it. Yeah, I guess I kind of have to use that.
If the two of us, if I'm a master at chess and we are playing chess and I cheat, but everyone watching determines, well, Mark's a master at chess, he's an expert, he didn't need to cheat, and he would have won anyway. Does that negate my cheating? The reason anyone cheats is with the purpose of changing the result. Otherwise, they wouldn't cheat.
I'm going to throw something at you, Mark. I hope it doesn't make you mad, because I know you really like Ohio State. But I don't see much difference between what Ohio State did against Notre Dame, between what they did and what Colorado did against Missouri. To me, it's like two sides of the same coin.
What just happened here? Did we just flip this argument? Where are we now?
Well, you said cheating, and I don't look at it as cheating, but I'm going to put it this way though. I think Ohio State got lucky. I mean, I don't know. I think Colorado got lucky.
What are we talking about here? What just happened here?
Colorado.
We're talking about the allegations against Michigan. What are we talking about now? What
Well,
cheating?
You're the one that said that Colorado deserved a loss against Missouri. I mean, you kind of pretty much made that like your, point against them being a credible titleist because
there's a complete difference between someone cheating and there being a game officiated by officials who don't do their jobs. Colorado's not responsible for that.
You were trying to take the win away, though, weren't you?
Yeah.
Kind of. Well, I mean, maybe not directly, but it was justification for them not necessarily being a number one team, I guess. Yeah. And I could use the same argument, I think, against Ohio State. I'm not saying they cheated against Notre Dame. Well, the game against Notre Dame. I mean,
this year.
This year. Like 2 weeks ago.
Why?
Because it was questionable about whether they, they would have gotten another down. But
what was
to me,
questionable?
Whether he scored. But it doesn't really matter because I kind of look at it like they probably would have scored on fourth down anyway. It's the same thing, though. It's like,
I haven't heard anyone, including I've talked to a ton of Notre Dame fans, that had any issue with the call.
Replay of it? No. First of all, Notre Dame had 10 men on the field instead of 11.
Well, that's their fault. That's like saying the Ohio State quarterback threw a bad pass. They should do the play over. No,
to me, it's like an unfair advantage for Ohio State. Unfair. It's unfair. They won unfairly, in my opinion.
You can't legislate against stupidity. You can't legislate against a team not doing its job and being able to count players.
Well, it's an unfair advantage, and I think that's kind of what you were talking about. Okay.
Ohio State's got the best wide receiver in the country. Is that an unfair advantage? So he shouldn't be able to catch as many passes as he does.
But the difference between me and you is I'm not going to take the win away, and you want to take the win away from Colorado, and that's kind of what makes me mad a little bit. I went to Colorado. I didn't play for them or nothing, but I don't think we should take the win away just because somebody doesn't like the result.
That they did not. There is no such thing in football as a fifth down. They ran out of downs.
That's kind of what it was presented as, but Colorado only tried to advance the ball on 3 of those 5 downs. And that's a fact. I mean, if you don't want to believe me, don't believe me, but they only tried to advance the football on 3 of the 5. I mean, I don't know if that really matters.
Yes,
but
they
the ball on 4th down,
grounded the football, thinking it was a different down.
On 4th down, they spiked the ball that probably should have ended the game. And I don't even know, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure that he scored on 5th down. I don't really know. They said he did, but I don't know if he did. To me, it looked kind of like the same thing with Ohio State. I guess he probably did, but it wasn't really clear to me. But he probably did. I don't think Ohio State, they won, but I think Colorado won too. And that's kind of my point. I don't want to hear. I'm kind of tired of hearing about how Colorado cheated because I don't think Colorado did cheat.
Whoever said Colorado cheated?
Well, that's kind of the implication. That's the implication.
Whoever you listen to or watch that says Colorado cheated,
I kind of think maybe it was you.
Me?
Because you said that there was at least 2 games that they should have lost. I mean, I don't know. You didn't say they cheated, but to me, it's the same.
They did not cheat. Okay, let me make something extremely clear. At some point in the history of sports, and specifically the history of college football, they decided we are going to employ officials to officiate the game. At that point, it then became impossible for teams to knowingly cheat on the field.
Well,
the officials officiate and regulate the sport and the game on the field.
I understand.
Players do not cheat. Teams do not cheat on the field unless it's regulated by the officials. So the officials can make bad calls, but nobody's out there cheating. Like I can't advance the ball. Like if I'm a running back and I just got tackled, I can't like move the ball up further than it should be. There's an official there.
Sure.
To regulate that. Just like the 5th down with Colorado. I'm not blaming Colorado. It has everything in the world to do.
I don't know that there were 5 downs.
Being incompetent.
On 2nd down, they threw it's kind of like, I don't know what they call it, a hitch pass or something like that. and the player fell down, and he fell down because the he didn't have good, you can say whatever you want to about it. He would have gone out of bounds, is what he would have done, probably. But that was on a second down. That was before. Anyway, Colorado had to use a timeout. So really what Colorado got really wasn't a fifth down. What they got was a timeout. At least the way I look at it. They got that timeout that they had to use. They got that timeout back. So I kind of look at it a little bit differently than you do. I know he spiked the football on fourth down, but really kind of what they got was a timeout back that they probably deserve to have back.
Well, will you do me a favor, Chris?
Well, that's how I look at it, because it's like, they
will you
wouldn't have called
do
the
me
timeout.
a favor? Will you do me a favor?
Sure.
What is the
They had to
name
use
of
the timeout.
this show? What is the name of this show?
Michigan stealing signs.
Yes.
Okay. Well, no, I just
we
wanted
can talk
to.
about
I kind of wanted to
1990. We'll pick up the 1990 conversation sometime around January 12th.
No. But really, what they got was a timeout. Really, is kind of what it was. They can call it a fifth down if they want. They got an extra timeout that they probably didn't deserve.
We'll pick up the conversation about 1990 sometime in January after this season. There's no reason to be talking about 1990 in 2023 during the college football season.
To me, well, there is an
I love talking about history. I could talk history all day and all night, but we need to do that from the time the national championship game's over until the first game's played.
Okay. Sounds fair.
We're here to talk about 2023 and specifically
I'm talking about
Michigan.
2023, but I'm not taking a win away from Ohio State. I think they deserve the win, but I think Colorado deserved the win too. Okay. That's kind of my point. I think it's the same thing. Personally, I see it as the same thing.
Okay. That's fine.
All right, I'm just telling you how I feel. You don't have to agree with it. All right. Thanks, Mark. Have a good day.
That's fine. Thanks, Chris.
It's fine. You don't have to. All right, bye.
Okay. That's why we have officials. It's just like the 2003 Fiesta Bowl game with Ohio State. I can understand Miami fans being upset with the officials. Why Miami fans are upset with Ohio State is idiotic. That's just flat out what it is. It's moronic. They're just a team playing a sport. They don't throw flags. They don't officiate. They don't have any control over the processing of the game. They're just out there playing, just like your team's playing. There are officials making the decisions to regulate and officiate the game. Has nothing to do with the other team. All right. So I enjoy this comment here from Parker. I really have no idea what Parker's talking about. I apologize because we didn't leave the link in the description section, so we'll drop it in the chat here. So I would invite Parker and anyone else to please join the show for as long as you guys want to talk some Michigan football. Keep in mind, this Ohio State-Penn State game is coming up on Saturday. And we've got all sorts of previews here at the Voice of College Football. Check out our conversation with Best Damn Media the other day. We also did a live stream with our guys on the Big Ten Live show. So check out all the conversations that we have and the breakdowns involving Ohio State and Penn State. And of course, I will have a prediction on the game. Also, keep in mind that if you still want to go to the game, you want to go see Ohio State, Penn State. So you Ohio State haters, do you want to see Penn State go into the shoe and win the game? You Ohio State fans, of course, do you want to see a huge win at home? Well, go to ticketsmarter.com or the TicketSmarter app. We've looked this up just here in the last few minutes, and the get-in price, this gets you in the door. This gets you a seat at Ohio Stadium for this Saturday at TicketSmarter. $170 for a ticket. And I cannot find our banner. There we go. Right there. Okay. So ticketsmarter.com or the TicketSmarter app. You get $20 off your purchase. Use the promo code BIG20 So your get-in price right now, Ohio State, Penn State, want to be there? I think the weather's supposed to be good. Is $170 at TicketSmarter. Most competitive prices on the secondary market, safe and secure. We've already, so much like the Amazon link, we can already prove this and say that we've had a number of people go to TicketSmarter and use the promo codes and report back. Worked well. Thumbs up. So average price on the lower level, $600, but the get-in price, $170. Ohio Stadium, Buckeyes, Penn State. Use the promo code BIG20, BIG20 to save $20. All right, folks. So back to the comment here. Now I've lost track of it. Well, unfortunately, I've lost track of that comment since I went to this other banner. But we had a disgruntled Michigan fan who thought I was being biased. Yeah, completely lost that one. All right, Mike 3883. Make it like a technical foul. Each team they play gets an untimed long field goal before the start of the game. That'll stop it. All right. Can't say that I agree with you, Mike, but interesting. That would certainly put a little flair to the game. Okay, we know that so-and-so cheated 3 weeks ago. You know, they should announce that. Wouldn't that? Now that would add a little flair to it. Just like the officials announced to the crowd and the television audience, offsides, number 81, offense, first down. That at the commencement of the game, that the official would announce to the crowd and the TV audience that in this case, for example, if in fact this happened, Michigan scouting and coaching violation 3 weeks ago, violation on Michigan for cheating. Therefore, Maryland kicks a long field goal to start the game from the 30-yard line or whatever. 3-0 Maryland. Okay. Now, the only issue I would have with, well, I've got a lot of issues with that, but one that comes to mind is it's dependent on how good the field goal kicker is for the other team. And a penalty against the team should have nothing to do with how good the field goal kicker is on the other team. Okay. Bradley. The chat is amusing. Badger and Bournemouth, way off topic, but who do I like tonight, Marshall or James Madison? I tend to like James Madison in that game. Why? I couldn't even tell you. Have not seen either team play a down this year. Corey says, I think I don't know who they are, need to do away with the sport as a whole. No more college football. I think we're gain some sanity. There's an easy way, Corey, to remedy that in your life. You understand that, right? You know, at least in this country at this time, I don't know how long it's going to last. I got a sore on my tongue. I don't know how long it's going to last. But for right now, we do have freedom of choice in this country. So I am sorry, Corey, that we have inconvenienced you by forcing our college football on you. So Mike, hopefully you picked up the other link. I will post it again. And a few things I would like to let everyone know concerning the call-in lines. First of all, I do apologize that they're not listed in the... Oh, shoot. Let me try this again because that's not correct. So yes, first and foremost, I apologize that the link changes all the time, or otherwise we would post the link in every description section and just leave it there, and you would always have the link. However, it is unique to every broadcast. So that's one thing. Secondly, is that my apologies for not remembering to place the link in the description section of every live stream. I forget that. Thirdly, we will at some point, I cannot tell you when. I'm hoping that it will be sometime after the first of the year. We will go back to having a call-in line. So then you will have the option of using StreamYard and the video, or we will have a call-in line as well. So there are just some things that need to be worked out regarding location, set, and then, for one thing, for the last year and 4 months, I have been working off of a laptop. Okay. And my real camera is laying over there. And there are a lot of reasons why it's not being used right now. My audio board laying over there. And hopefully in the next few months, I would have liked to have addressed all this before football season, but here in the next few months, we will address all this and hopefully have a shiny new set and our camera back in play and our audio board and a call-in line, and hang in there with us. A lot of things to be worked out in life. John, thank you so much for posting in the chat. We will wait for Mike's call. Anybody else who would like to call, the link has been posted by John in the chat. If anybody would like to call, since we have exhausted the topic, certainly we are still open to talk about the Michigan allegations, but at the same time, we are here now to simply talk college football as well. So we will take any calls concerning any topics. Week 8 games highlighted by, of course, Ohio State and Penn State. A huge game in the SEC with Alabama, Tennessee. Iowa tries to hang on to the Big Ten Western Division lead, taking on Minnesota. Michigan State on Saturday night. Big game in the ACC on Saturday night. Duke, Florida State. We've got that game as well. Utah, USC is another game in play on Saturday. All right, let's take it back to the phone lines. We've got Mike here. Hey, Mike.
Mark? Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
What's going on? Because I don't even know what's really going on.
Okay, what's going on is that, can you turn me down in the background? There's a reverb. So, Mike, what's going on is that I'm still hearing it.
What are you hearing? Like an echo?
Yeah. So I don't know why, but there's
I don't know why. I got it turned down.
Okay.
Let me do it again. Let me hang up and come back.
Yes, please do. Thanks, Mike.
I will. I'll try. All right. What's going on?
So here's the deal with Amazon. Moose, thank you so much for posting this. Appreciate you. So if you grab the Amazon link in the description section of the videos, when you go on there, it's the same shopping experience. You help us tremendously. You help us grow and build the channel. Grab the Amazon link in the description section. It doesn't cost you a penny. When I say same shopping experience, I've talked to 25 people that have said, Mark, just works exactly like it does when I use the Amazon link that I currently use. You'll be logged in. If you have Amazon Prime, all those things in your account, you're still there. You're still where you need to be. But this way, there is a small portion of your Amazon purchase that comes to the Voice of College Football to help us continue to produce content here. All right. So please do that. We are waiting for Mike to call back. Will, I thought Mike was just a troll. Will be interesting to see him call in. Well, Mike certainly takes his shot at me at times, but that's fine. I appreciate him being here. Moose, thank you so much for the link that you dropped there with the topqualityshirts.com. That's our merch here at the Voice of College Football, and it's some good looking merch. So check that out as well. And I'm going to be donning it a little bit more frequently going forward. Mozart is apparently waiting for Landfound to call. I believe Landfound was waiting at one point and dropped off. Aaron says all that is actually known is that there are allegations and an investigation. To some, that is a smoking gun, and it should not be. Correct. It should not be that. Although, think about this. Can anyone think of a time in which it's been announced that there are NCAA investigations going on and that there has not been, as a result, some violation found? I cannot think of that. And I don't keep track of NCAA investigations, but I cannot think of one that has produced no result, no violation. Says here from Blitzburg, college football needs to allow mics and helmets like the NFL does, and none of this will happen or matter, which there is a report in here on the Pete Thamel article on ESPN. Okay, the NFL has long used helmet communications for signals, with the first version limited to sideline communication in 1994. And then there was also something concerning. I thought there was another statement made in here. Multiple Big Ten coaches this offseason were advocates of exploring helmet communication as a way to generally better protect signs. Okay. Changes, however, were tabled until after this season. Palcar, appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. You know, we do this every day. We're all over the place. We've got shows all over the place, and we are in the midst of posting all sorts of previews, breakdowns. Oklahoma UCF is coming up. I know you're excited about that one, Oklahoma UCF. We've got Alabama Tennessee is out. That's been posted. Check out our preview, Alabama Tennessee. Penn State, Ohio State, of course, is all over the place. Check out our previous live streams on the Buckeyes and Penn State. We may do another one tomorrow. We possibly have two live streams set up tomorrow. One, Ohio State, Penn State. The other one, Oklahoma and UCF. We just posted the Clemson Miami preview. That's an enjoyable listen with Jordan Bowman and Cam Underwood that we posted a few hours right here. So we cover all the conferences, all of college football. Sometimes they get criticized for focusing too much on the Big Ten, and I understand that. But basically, if you would go through our library of videos and live streams, you would find that it's not disproportionate. First of all, I know we've got a Big Ten show on Mondays, and I would do different conference every night if they could be better supported. So there's only one of me, and there's a number of conferences and teams and so much to cover that we can't get to every one all the time. Yeah, we should not make assumptions. We should not. And what I will say as a rival fan, and I still am a fan, I'm a fan, yes. I'm a little bit different of a fan in some ways because, number one, I covered the sport for in various aspects for 30 years now. Good Lord. So that was as an anchor reporter for a CBS station, going to the games, going to the news conferences, going to the practices, doing all that every day, running a sports department at a CBS station years ago. In some respects, the most fun job I ever had. In most respects, it was the most fun job I've ever had, running a sports department at a place where we covered 3 SEC schools. So the point I'm making there is that, yeah, I still had my rooting interests, but I did so in covering the sport. And then my mind is lost at this point. I I had a point to all that, but we've got Mike connecting back in. Bam. For
Okay,
some
is it
reason,
better
Mike,
this
I
time
can
or
still
no?
hear myself.
Yeah, and I have YouTube off. All right. I don't
Okay.
know what's going on.
We'll give it a shot. You talk, and so we will not hear me twice, and you just keep going, Mike.
Well, I don't really know what's going on, so I wanted you to tell me first what's going on. 'Cause I
Gotcha,
didn't hear
gotcha.
this.
Okay, here we go. And if everybody can stand the reverb, we'll go to it. I'll make this as brief as possible. Basically, the story came out today from a number of sources that the NCAA is investigating Michigan into rules violations, which involve sending advanced scouts, coaches, or somebody affiliated with a team to games of future opponents to steal signs. And that goes against NCAA bylaws.
So what Belichick did.
Didn't Belichick tape practices?
But in other words, he sent people to spy on the team. Is that what they're saying?
No, not spy. Go to games with 50,000 people there or whatever.
Yeah.
No, they didn't spy. Although you could look
Okay,
at
but
it
do
that
they-
way. They were out in the open in public, but they're not allowed to do that.
And do they have proof? Do they know the games?
No, they don't have proof. We're just hearing of the allegations. Otherwise, we would be saying that there are penalties handed down by the NCAA. No, it's simply the allegations.
And how long did they say how long they think it might have been going on?
Okay, this is the last question I'm going to ask because we're getting complaints about all the reverb going back and forth. So possibly prior to 2022. But thanks for calling, Mike. I appreciate it.
It's just funny how it's coming out now.
Okay, well, that happens all the time with these investigations. When do we ever find out about something that happened like 3 days ago? That never
it's
happens.
hard.
So that always happens. It's always a couple years
If they're
old.
doing it, if they're not doing, I guarantee, if it is true, they're not doing anything that Bama, Georgia, or any of those teams. They're all doing it. There is no way Michigan is the only team ever to do this. It's not. Of course, they're not. Because you learn it when you do things like this. You learn it from someone. They didn't.
Well,
make
you don't
this,
have
know
to
what
be
I
a
mean? So
genius to
I
have
don't
come
think
up
it's a
with
big
this.
deal.
Okay, so you're getting
So
support
yeah,
from Michigan fans in the chat, but when you get pulled over for doing 85 and a 65, is your immediate response, well, everybody else does this?
no,
Okay,
but we're not
just
talking about a
checking.
speeding ticket.
No, we're
Yeah, we're
not. But
talking
we're
about
talking about
college
if they
football,
if
and you know
they
how it is.
oh, I know how it is, but if they violated, then what are you going to do? They violated the
I
rules. All right,
guarantee. Well,
this
you know what I
conversation's
think's
gone
gonna
on way
happen?
too long because it's annoying me and everyone else because we are hearing
Okay.
reverb. Thanks, Mike. All right. Hated to cut that off, but it went on for way too long and I couldn't even concentrate on what I was saying. It's difficult for me to speak as it is. Don't make it any tougher. Okay. I get his point. And for anybody that's defending Michigan or anybody else who has ever cheated, and we don't know that they've cheated, okay, let's make that clear. So everything that I state in stating examples, I'm just making for case for the discussion, making the assumption, but I'm not making an assumption of guilt. That's what I was about to get to actually when Mike called back in when I started to take us through, and I know I was boring everyone with a rant about my career. Basically, I was getting to the point eventually that, you know what? Some of you won't believe this. I don't want Michigan to be guilty. I don't want them to be guilty. I wanted to come back that they did not partake in this any such way. That is what my hope and my desire is. No cheating, none of it. Don't want to hear about it. Don't want it to be true. That's what I want. I doubt most Ohio State fans are in that same bucket. And for the person that commented earlier, and I had that comment on the screen, and I've never heard from this person before that I can recall. And unfortunately, I can't find the comment now because it's buried about 1,000 comments earlier. I have no idea what they're talking about in regards to suddenly I become biased and that it's not a good look. And I used to not be biased, and now I am. From that standpoint, this all used to be a little bit more fun years ago when I truly pulled it off for years, where people didn't know who I rooted for. They had no idea. I had Ohio State fans at my throat for years. So when I have anybody telling me now that I'm being biased, I think that comes from knowing who I root for. And I should have never said anything and let that out. But I think I should be able to say that and then just prove through my actions and my analysis that I'm being fair. But you have to realize when you do what I'm doing and you root for a team that has the best winning percentage in history and the best over the last 20 years, it sometimes sounds biased when it's truly not. All right. So I do hope that Michigan did not do anything wrong. Moose is saying everyone in chat making assumptions. Yes. Yes, we have no evidence. There's obviously, well, we don't even know if the NCAA has evidence. We just know that they're following up on the complaints that were brought. Now, and I don't even know at what point, if you're a rival head coach and you go to the NCAA and you've got a certain level of clout in which I could not talk to the NCAA, they wouldn't listen to me. But if you're the head coach at a Power 5 school, and I don't know if they require them to bring forth any kind of evidence, or if by simply saying, hey, my name's so and so, and I coach so and so, and I believe Michigan is sending scouts and personnel to opponents' games to steal signs, you need to investigate it. That's enough for the NCAA to say, yep, we will. Let's go to it. Or if their response is, I'm sure there's a response and they would like to know if there's some level of evidence and why they believe that. Of course, they're going to ask that question. They're not that incompetent, are they? This is a great comment. This is coming from an Oregon State fan, our guy Clint. Clint, we love you, Clint, but you realize that the Pac-12 has been good for about 5 minutes. The Pac-12 has been a reputable, good football playing conference for about 5.5 minutes now. So that's an idiotic comment. That's a moronic comment. I don't think you want to check Ohio State's record against the Pac-12 in the last 10 or 15 years. So anyway, that's just being stupid. So, but that is the role of a fan. Okay. Well, I think I think we've about hit the end of the line, folks. We appreciate you all being here. And keep in mind, we got a Michigan show that we do with John D'Adamo every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We got a Big Ten show. So if we got like 300 people here right now, we should have at least 300 for our Big Ten show that we provide each and every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, folks, where we talk Big Ten for 4 hours with all of you. I appreciate everyone who's responded very favorably to the instant analysis videos that we send and post that we post every Saturday. And so basically what I do is I pick out 2 games at noon, watch those 2 games while I'm trying to watch like 15 other games, but I'm focused on 2 games, take my notes, deliver instant analysis, do the same thing with the 3:30 window, do the same thing at primetime, and then boom, we're here after the primetime games to take your calls. Christopher, thank you so much for that. Love seeing names that I've never seen before. Christopher, if you're still here, I would love for you to let us know just one thing. I usually ask 2 things. One thing, how long have you been watching? Not today, like 8 minutes, but like how long have you been watching the channel? I'm just curious to see how long people have been watching. And then, yes, as I just stated a few minutes ago, Michigan Live Tuesdays at 8 o'clock with John on the Michigan channel. All right, folks, Ticket Smarter. Your get-in price is $170 for Ohio State and Penn State. Go to ticketsmarter.com. And then, yes, your get-in price is $170. Use the promo code BIG. Also keep in mind, and for a particular reason, it was a bit enlightening and hopeful and optimistic and all of those good things because of a response I received last night. But I will let everybody out there know, if you own a business or you have some type of leverage in a business that could benefit from partnering with us here at the Voice of College Football, please let me know. Even if you have no idea how, we can certainly work together on promoting your business, or if it's your own personal brand or platform, by sponsoring you and partnering with you here at the Voice of College Football. So hit me up at MarkRogersTV@gmail.com and let me know. Again, this is for large businesses, small businesses, even your own personal brand and platform. If you have a cause. So, for example, last year on the Oklahoma channel, there was a particular cause that we promoted and sponsored to fight autism and to give those families coaching and mentoring and counseling. And it was a great cause. So if you have a cause, if you have your own personal platform, or again, a business, and you could benefit from partnering with us at the Voice of College Football, there it is, MarkRogersTV@gmail.com. You can get a hold of me anytime at MarkRogersTV@gmail.com. If you have any recommendations, any requests, anything like that, then you can also let me know. We will see you soon. lock in on the college football. And of course, we will be back at a number of times on Friday, and we will see you then. Go to games all the time, or you've got your heart set on that one huge matchup, go to ticketsmarter.com to save big. TicketSmarter technology gives you the best competitive prices on the secondary market. Your purchase price is safe and guaranteed. Use promo code BIG, B-I-G, to get $10 off of any purchase of at least $100, or the promo code BIG20, BIG20, to get $20 off of any purchase of at least $300. Use the promo code as many times as you'd like. There is no limit. Get in the game with ticketsmarter.com or the TicketSmarter mobile app. Think smarter, Ticket Smarter.